This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
A special Thanksgiving edition of Doc and Jock. This is episode 172. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Happy Thanksgiving, cuz.
Gobble, gobble. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. Hey, this is the day right here. If you're listening to this right now, your Detroit Lions are about to embark on taking sole possession and building a nice little comfortable lead on first place. But before we start rapping about all that, the one thing that is shorter than the Doc's love life, what were your thoughts on Brock Lesnar v. Goldberg and Goldberg smashing that out of the park in, what was it, like 84 seconds?
It was unbelievable. I mean, seeing Goldberg come out, the fans were cheering. The fans were awesome throughout the entire Survivor Series pay-per-view. But coming after, I think what is challenging is I can see that when you set up a pay-per-view, you have to make sure the matches are in the right order. The match beforehand was unbelievable. You had 10 of the best superstars, 5 from Raw, 5 from SmackDown, and they put on an hour match that was for the ages. You had a mini Shield reunion. It had
Which
ups
was
and downs.
Great.
It was
absolutely great.
It had everything.
Popped so hard.
It was unbelievable. And then you come back and you end it that fast. I feel like it was a little bit of a letdown. Whereas had you done that before the Raw vs. SmackDown match, I think you would have gotten a lot better reaction. I think it would have been better off because it comes off feeling like a main event that you cut short. But if it extends to further storylines in the Royal Rumble, leading to WrestleMania, I think that it was awesome to do.
See, now, as I was watching this match unfold, I sat there, I got super pumped. Everybody was excited for Goldberg's return. He looked amazing. This is a guy who basically took 6 to 7 weeks of his life and said, you know what, I'm going to do nothing but dedicate it to getting into incredible shape, look amazing. You've seen some of the ring rust in the live TV things that were going on Raw, or whether or not they were taking place on SmackDown. You've seen some of the rust when he would sit there and slip, or he sat there and injured his shoulder when he was delivering a spear. So he had ring rust, and he was just trying to work some of it off leading up to the pay-per-view. Now, the match gets underway. Next thing you know, it's over in 84 seconds. I mean, by the logic that WWE wants you to think of all of this, right? Undertaker's going to go down as one of the greatest superstars to ever grace the WWE ring. One of the greatest. I don't care who you are. The guy is Mr. WrestleMania. Mr. WrestleMania gets popped by Brock Lesnar, who I have no affection for at all. I can't stand Brock Lesnar. I think he's a horrible, horrible wrestler. I don't get the gimmick. I think it falls flat. You got a guy who can't talk on a microphone. He can't wrestle in a ring. He's basically just large, and he looks mean. And then you got to sit there and you got to pair him with Paul Heyman. That's it. That's what he is. All right, so by WWE logic, Brock Lesnar is greater than one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time. All time. Goldberg now just squashed Lesnar in 84 seconds. So by WWE logic, Goldberg is 10 times greater than The Undertaker. What? Doesn't even make sense. Now, I love Bill Goldberg. I absolutely love him. I think it's great. I understand why they did it. I do. I get it. I absolutely get it. What probably would have made much more sense, I'll explain it to you in a second there, Vinny. What would have made much more sense to me is if you let these guys sit there, get in the ring, flail a whale on each other for about 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then if you want to, have Goldberg hit his 2 spears and his jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, call it a day. You're set up now for the Royal Rumble. Instead, you have Goldberg end it in 84 seconds. Now, the reason you end it in 84 seconds, Goldberg going into the match was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury, so you don't want him to get hurt. All right. On top of that, Lesnar realized the cash cow that is Bill Goldberg. You see how hard the fans pop for the guy when he comes out on Raw. You see how hard the fans pop for the guy in Toronto at the Survivor Series. It was amazing. It gave you chills. It was great to see this guy. So Lesnar realizes there is a cash cow that is strapped to Bill Goldberg's back. And Lesnar says, all right, well, let's do this. The one thing that was holding it all up was whether or not Bill Goldberg wanted to say yes for another match either at the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. because he took so much of his time, so much of his energy to sit there and get in such phenomenal shape that he basically burned himself out before the Survivor Series match. So now going into that match, you've got a guy who's basically running on fumes, looks incredible, but he's got nothing left in the tank, and he's dealing with a little bit of a bum shoulder. So the reason why you sit there and you end the match the way you end the match as quickly as you did it is to sit there and preserve Bill Goldberg and to sit there and make him look so much more powerful than the guy who he's going to eventually lose to. It'd be great if they just gave him the belt. They could just strap the championship belt on him. It'd be amazing. It would be amazing. But you spend so many months and so much time just basically doing the WWE circuit, going on ESPN, pushing the video game, and then for what? For 84 fleeting seconds. And it was amazing to see him just sit there and annihilate annihilate Brock Lesnar, because I can't stand Lesnar. I hate him. I hate him more than anything in this world. I can't stand him. I think he's awful for the sport.
I want to ask you this, though.
But
I want to ask you this question, though. Would you be one of those guys, let's say you're one of those worker bees like Dean Ambrose or AJ Styles, and you've gone through 15, 16 years of traveling the circuit, throwing your body around, doing all the moves, and then you got a guy like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar who gets to show up part-time and earn, obviously, big money to do it, and then they have to go out there and perform for 80 seconds. I feel like, what message does that send to the locker room as a company when you have these guys that you've built the company around working hard, and then you got these guys coming in and not working much? I know the attitude that I think keeps people going is, hey, they're bringing money into the company. So those guys, when they go out there, they have huge names. Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Hulk Hogan. So those guys, when they get interviewed and then they're asked, like, hey, you're not known much of a wrestler. And they're like, why would I want to wrestle and grind myself? Because, hey, if I learn to kind of be more entertaining and get over that way, why would I want to throw my body around for 15 years and end up a cripple when I can just kind of go out there, throw a few leg kicks, throw my hands up to my ears, get the crowd popping, get what I need, get my 6-minute match, get the huge ovation, walk to the back, have some beers, and hang out with the boys. So there is that little, probably, dynamic that you have the real wrestlers versus the Showtime big money guys. And it's just something where I would love to kind of be in there when the boys start complaining or when there's a drama in the back, to kind of be a fly on the wall and be like, what does Vince do to try to blend all these egos together? Because it's super hard. These guys are look at a guy like Kevin Owens, a guy like Seth Rollins. They're working hard the last 2-3 years, and you got a guy like Brock Lesnar who can show up, make $5 million, sell a ton of shirts. The only wrestler allowed to have Jimmy John sponsorship on his shorts. The only wrestler's getting special privilege, and you go out there and he's making huge money just off of his name. But he's helping the company in some way, and but.
I feel like WWE sold their soul to him, though, because like I said, he's not a good in-ring performer. He can't cut a promo to save his life. He's absolutely everything that you need, that you build a champion around in the WWE. He lacks everything. The only thing he has going for him is that he's big and he's intimidating. That's it. That's all he's got. He's powerful. If he picks you up, he can body slam you. He can take you to Suplex City and just suplex you all over the ring. You know this. That's all he has going for him. Otherwise, I feel like WWE sold their soul to this guy. This is a guy who didn't even want to be a wrestler. He just did it because he didn't want to actually find a real job. Couldn't cut it in the NFL. So he was like, hey, you know what? I'll go hang out in the squared circle and they'll pay me. And then he sat there and he showed up for a little bit. And then he left, which was great by design, because if you look at it, when he leaves, he gets to come back and now he dictates the terms that he wants. And WWE's like, you know what? Just show up for 25 shows a month or a year, and we'll take care of you. We'll pay you a lot. That's it. You know what? You don't even have to talk on a microphone. You don't. We'll give you Paul Heyman. And you know what? When you don't show up, we'll make Paul Heyman show up. So don't worry about a damn thing. We got you. Okay, well, thanks, Vince. That's outstanding.
Yeah, there's really only been one casualty and one person that pointed out the hypocrisy, and he got pissed off that The Rock would do it. That was CM Punk.
CM Punk.
And that was a guy that was huge.
Dude, his pipe bomb promo, one of the greatest ever. Awesome. If you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. He sits up at the top of the ramp when his entrance comes out, and he just sits there with a microphone just talking to the WWE Universe, telling them all kinds of dirty laundry. It's great.
Yes, sir. So now you downloaded this podcast, episode 172, and everyone's sitting around, eating, drinking, having a good old time, ready to watch the Detroit Lions take on the Minnesota Vikings 12:30, a game that some people are like, why does Detroit get to have this game, this special occurrence every year? And
Because it's our God-given right, damn it.
That's right. Don't hate, appreciate the fact that you're probably going to watch a close game. It's probably going to come down to the wire, and it should be entertaining. Coming off of losing 11 of 12 Thanksgiving games, the Lions have won a couple straight, and I do think going into this game, I'm a little bit more confident that they're going to play a lot better, and I do believe that, the mistakes that they made versus Jacksonville can be corrected, and I do think that it's going to be a close game, but one that I'm starting to get that confidence week in, week out. They're going to pull it out. This is a game that has a lot of implications for it, but going into it, my initial thought is I think they're going to play well. I think that there's probably going to be another situation in the fourth quarter where they'll be behind and they'll come back and make the magic, make everybody go home happy. But they're sitting at 6-4, a football team that's gaining confidence week in, week out. And when you can win a game versus Jacksonville rushing for less than 20 yards, that bodes well for you. I mean, they're a team that, has played 10 games. They're sitting at 6-4, and Minnesota has a solid defense, but can they go out there and execute on short rest? I think the Lions have a better chance as we sit here today.
Absolutely. The Lions get to stay home. They get some home cooking. Again, Minnesota just played a game on Sunday as well. Short rest, you got to travel. It makes it a little bit more difficult if you're Minnesota. The big issue I have coming into this game is this offense has put up a number of clunkers as the season has wore on. Look, you've been behind in every single game this season, every single one of them. You were able to sit there and come back in the fourth quarter of 6 of those. That's outstanding. That shouldn't be overlooked. But the big issue I have is you have games like the game against the Titans, where your offense was able to put up 13 points but no touchdowns after the first quarter. Or the game against the Bears, where your offense was able to put up 6 points and no TDs whatsoever in this game. Or the game against the Texans, where you scored a touchdown, but only after being behind by 14. These things are always a little bit too little too late. And then you've got a game like you had on last Sunday when you took on the Jags, where you were able to score a touchdown eventually in the fourth quarter, but your offense was only able to rush for 14 yards. 14 yards on 21 tries. Not very balanced if you're an offense. So many 3 and outs, especially in the first half. You just basically put yourself behind. If you didn't have a defensive touchdown and you didn't have a special teams touchdown, this game would be totally out of your hands if you were the offense, because you sat there and it took you until the fourth quarter to finally get rolling. And that's a huge issue I have with this team right now, is just you can't keep showing up to games and just waiting for the offense to sit there and hit that uptake and just start putting some points on the board. You got to come out firing. If this game, especially, if you can come out and you can put a couple points up in the first quarter, second quarter, and kind of take a little bit of a lead headed into halftime, you're going to sit there and you're going to do yourself some justice here, because that's what you got to do against Minnesota. Minnesota's got a very, very good defense. Very good defense. Now, that offense is extremely banged up. Again, you don't have your starting running back. You don't have your starting quarterback. Your offensive line is basically a bunch of removable pieces, because you've had to go out and get guys off the street who look like they weigh about 300 pounds and dress them up in a Minnesota uniform and hope that they can keep Sam Bradford upright. And that's basically what you're working with on offense. So the Lions offense has to come in and they have to play well, and that defense has to capitalize on any mistakes that Sam Bradford or anybody else in that offense makes. You got to watch for loose balls. You got to force some fumbles. If you can do that, the Lions set themselves up beautifully to sit there and advance in this game.
Well, the game's at Ford Field, and this season the Lions have won 4 of the 5 games. They only lost 16-15 in week 2 versus the Titans at home. They've won 4 straight at home by an average margin of guess what? What was the average margin of victory that the Lions have won by at home?
6.
Less. 3.5.
Really?
They're averaging winning by 3.5 at home.
That makes sense, because all those fourth quarter comebacks, they basically had to lean on a Matt Prater field goal. They play from 50 or 40 yards.
They play a little bit better defensively. They've gotten 8 takeaways during this win streak at home. So they play a little bit better with a little bit more intensity, and this game has a lot of meaning towards it, where if the Lions can get this victory versus a divisional foe, they'll be 1 game up and have some more edges in the tiebreaker. And that, if they get to 7-4, they'll be really in the driver's seat to earn a spot in the postseason and get to the playoffs. And I think that they're going to come out on Thanksgiving and give it their all and really do some things. I don't think they're going to come out and lay a dud like they did versus the Titans in the fourth quarter, or they did in the entire game versus the Chicago Bears. I think they're going to show up. And I do think that with the issues that we saw versus Jacksonville and that offensive line, the key, obviously, is to somehow or another, with the combination of running backs that are going to be available, is figure out how the hell are we going to run the football and do some things in order to kind of help that offense out to be a little bit more balanced. You don't have to go out for 160 like the Cardinals do or other teams that run the ball well, but what you got to be able to do is at least get 3 to 4 yards and keep the defense a little bit rested when you get the ball.
You got to be able to pose a threat while running the ball, because you got to keep that defense honest. Look, this we all know, this offense for a long time has been predicated on the pass. It's been predicated on the big play downfield. Everything that this team does leans towards you throwing the ball. All right, you've got to be able to at least run the ball a little bit efficiently to keep that defense honest, so they can't sit there and throw double teams out on your wide receivers. You know, and I know during the game, as the game with the Jags was going on, the announcers were like, "Oh, well, they're utilizing the short passing game like it's a run." Yeah, you can do that sometimes, but the Lions did it pretty much the entire time. You tried to run the ball 21 times, and you could only muster 14 yards. That is brutal. That means every time you touch the ball, you got less than a yard. You should be able to fall forward and pick up a yard.
Which made no sense because Jacksonville run defense was horrible.
It's brutal.
What happened?
It makes absolutely no sense. The way this team plays, whether it be on offense, defense, and even special teams, it's so dangerous. It's like they're walking a very fine edge of either being incredibly awesome or just horrifically garbage, just absolute ineptitude. Now, and you kind of seen it in the Jags game. The Jags game was a perfect microcosm of what this season has been so far. You have Andre Roberts go back to field a punt, and he bobbles it and drops it. Leads to a fumble turnover. Jacksonville gets it. They're basically within the red zone. You now have to lean on your defense. Your defense miraculously comes up huge, makes a big play, and forces them to kick a field goal. Come back a little bit later on in this game, and Andre Roberts turns around and scores a 50-some-odd yard punt return. It's like it's good and bad all the time, good and bad. And then if you watch some of the big plays that Jacksonville had downfield, again, your defense was able to sit there and stop them in the red zone. They had 3 straight tries within the 10-yard line, and you stopped them. And then you sit there and you go back to the game, and you've got them running all over you. The running backs were all over the Lions' defense, and then they have huge plays downfield. And yet, the Lions only give up a few points. It's like it's good and bad all the time. And then the offense can't get going. It's like getting a car, and you basically keep trying to start it, and you're flooding the car. You can't do anything. You sit there, you take 15 minutes off. Next thing you know, you get it started. Lions sit there, hit a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Thank God for that. You know, it's good and bad all the time. It's like a fine razor's edge that they're walking this entire season. They play so dangerously. It just makes me nervous when I'm watching these games.
Listen, I would say that you should be nervous because a lot of NFL football games, roughly 3/4, 75% of games have been within one score in the fourth quarter. So it's, a league-wide thing, but what's great is the Lions are coming ahead and coming through with the victory. And so with the Lions, what we're starting to see and what we always like to see with the football team is offense, defense, and special teams are important. Now, the offense has some things that you're worried about. The defense is a bend, don't break. We're waiting for guys to come back, and we're continuously waiting for Ziggy Ansah to continue to heal and get back to being the force. But there's been other guys that have emerged.
Where's he been lately?
He's been injured. Obviously, you know that he's coming back. His speed is the one thing. His speed and explosiveness is the one thing that we're missing. But with that defense, they've kept the Lions in most of the games. But a point that I think is becoming a strength for the Detroit Lions, and one that a lot of people are talking about, is the Lions' special teams. You got Sam Martin having a career year.
Dude, he's outstanding.
Blasting the ball every time he punts it. Matt Prater's gone 18 for 21 this year.
He's been solid.
And even though Andre Roberts makes mistakes, he's become a guy that I talked about earlier in the week as kind of being a symbol of this team, a guy that made a huge mistake versus Jacksonville, comes right back and turns it around and contributes points. And he's, a guy that has 2 returns for touchdowns, and he's done some things to help the Lions ball club. So, and they're using him on the offense. So the Lions special teams deserve some credit. And if it becomes down to that, but if it comes down to special teams, I think the Lions have the edge. The area that most people, when they look at this game, they probably go, okay, the Minnesota defensive line probably is going to have a little bit of an edge versus the Lions offensive line. Are they going to be able to get to Matthew Stafford a little bit more and sack him? Are they going to force him to throw the ball faster than he might be used to? And that might happen. And so you might look at that and go, okay, this might be a super tight game with not a lot of scoring, but in the end, I do believe that the Lions are going to eke this one out with the best quarterback on the field is going to be Matthew Stafford. So I have confidence that it's going to be, again, a low-scoring first half. We might be probably having a little bit more fun if you have some cocktails. Throw them back because it's probably going to be around a 9-6 kind of halftime score, and all the action is going to take place after the 2 o'clock hour.
You're right. Special teams and defense is what makes Minnesota so dangerous as a team because that offense just isn't very good. They're falling apart at the seams right now. The only reason that they were able to rebound and get off their losing streak at this point last week was because of their special teams and because of their defense. Again, the Lions needed the same thing. They needed help from both of those. They needed a special teams touchdown and they needed a defensive touchdown to sit there and win the game against Jacksonville, who's not been good at all this season, all right? So here's the deal. This team has to be able to come in and make some plays on defense. The Lions have to get to Sam Bradford. They've got to disrupt him. They've got to hit him a couple of times. And if you could somehow get a guy like DeAndre Levy back, and I know Dave Burkett was tweeting earlier on Wednesday and basically said that, hey, don't expect him for Thursday's game. If he could somehow come back, give a little bit of a spark to this team and be able to cover a top 10 tight end like Kyle Rudolph, it would be huge for this team. Huge. Because the tight ends are what killed the Lions last time these two teams played. The tight ends are what has killed this team all season long. If the Lions can game plan something, put something, even if you bring in Miles Killebrew, who had, a really, really nice game against the Jags last week. Real nice game. I think he was in there for all of 12 snaps, had 5 tackles. That's pretty impressive, all right? I don't care who you are. It's pretty impressive. If you can bring Killebrew in, have him sit there and cover the tight ends. He's fast enough and he's a big enough hitter to where he can sit there and make their life a little bit difficult. Defense is going to have to play an important part. Special teams is going to have to help out, and this offense has to get going early and often. It'd be nice if they came out and they basically started in a hurry-up offense. Got the timing of the offense kind of going, moving the ball down the field. You kind of get Minnesota's defense on their heels just a little bit. And from there, you can just sit there and take off. I mean, this game is so important because if you win it, like you said, you take a commanding lead over the division. You now own both tiebreakers here with Minnesota. Plus, you get another win against a playoff team that's in contention, and you get another divisional win. And you're adding some distance between you and Minnesota. So this is imperative that you get this win. It's a huge game, and I don't want to understate it. It's a massive game on Turkey Day. They've got to get this win for sure.
And so this Lions team has done a lot of great things this season, and I like our strategy of just going game by game. I believe they're going to play their A game, and they're going to come away with a victory because Minnesota has a lot of flaws, and when you're going in there with a quarterback like Sam Bradford, feel like this could be a game where you hit him once or twice, you might be looking at playing their backup. And, he's just a guy that has a hard time staying, in games a lot of times. But he's been pretty much okay, serviceable for Minnesota. But the one guy I think is going to be the killer, or maybe two, I would say, is going to be Kyle Rudolph, the tight end. And, the Lions have had issues there. And then Stephon Diggs. That's a guy that is a solid, talented receiver and one that they look to target. So if Darius Slay is going to be the guy that's going to be responsible for covering Diggs, he's got to do a good job and not give up big plays and take a lot of penalties. Because if the defense fails to show up, then it could, Minnesota's offense could do some things and make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, those are the two big playmakers that they have, Rudolph and Diggs. Again, if Darius Slay can show up and not be big penalty Darius Slay, because every time you turn around, the guy's either getting called for a holding or an interference or whatever, and keep Diggs, who's dealing with a little bit of a knee injury right now. So that bodes well for Darius. If they can sit there, contain Diggs, contain Kyle Rudolph, and again, like you said, if you can get to Sam Bradford and put some pressure on Bradford, hit him a couple times, you kind of rattle him just a little bit. Next thing you know, he's hearing footsteps. Turnovers come next. And if this defense last week showed that they have the ability to sit there and cause and create turnovers. If you can do that and you take one to the house, hey, that's a big deal. It's big time, and that helps this team out, and it helps you get this win. Again, you need to get a W here. There's no other way to put it. You got to get a win here. This is big-time football. We are now talking about the possibility of the Detroit Lions hosting a playoff game. That's where we're at. We're 10 weeks in, and Detroit has a firm opportunity to sit there and take the ball, run with it, and get that playoff game, get that home playoff game that all Lions fans have wanted and have basically yearned for since, 1991? So it's all in the Lions' hands at this point.
So, give me your prediction. Who you got?
I think it's going to be closer than what I want it to be. I think the Lions come away with a W. I'm going to say 24-21.
Okay, I'll keep it maybe even a little bit closer. I'm going to say 2017. Lions will have the ball late, and the hero of the day is going to be Matt Prater. 48-yarder to end the game with no time left, and everyone will go home happy.
Say the Lions get the ball in the 10, scurry down the field in 30 seconds, and Prater kicks a field goal to win it.
Yeah, and this time, Jim Caldwell is going to do something unbelievable on the sideline. He might do a backflip or try to do a Michael Jackson kick or something, show a little excitement.
Just want to see him do the splits.
And do the splits or one of his kind of three-quarter fist pumps that looks like he's going half speed. But hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. All right, stay with us. Great segment talking some wrestling and Detroit Lions. We're going to take a quick timeout, regroup here, get some coffee, watch some more wrestling here on the big Doc and Jocktron here in the Sterling Heights studios. Stay with us. Episode 172. We'll come right back. I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to topcatteamsales.com. That's topcatteamsales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat.
Goddamn D'Antonio! Gah! D'Antonio! Fuck you! Jesus! That's right, Ohio State don't want none.
No, we are not talking about Mark D'Antonio and his decisions. We've already gotten our anger out at what the hell is going on over there in East Lansing.
You can just keep playing that because Ohio State don't want none of the Block M.
Yes, sir.
Go
We're
ahead.
talking.
Just cue that back up one more time.
You want to hear one more time?
Yeah, I need some AJ Styles in my life. Yup.
You're confident? How confident are you that Michigan's going to do some damage this Saturday?
Yep.
You're confident? Come on, you should be nervous.
I am nervous. I'm actually terrified. Seriously. This, I'd have felt a lot better if Michigan State would have sat there and did some heavy lifting for the Wolverines here last week when they had the opportunity to. Instead, Marky D decides to go for two. Nobody knows why. As you heard Jason when we were coming into the segment, it's pretty much how I felt about the entire thing. But I'm very nervous. Look, going to the Horseshoe is a very, very difficult place to play. Ohio State hates Michigan. Michigan hates Ohio State. The coaching IQ that Ohio State has is off the wall. And looking at what Michigan has been able to do and what Jim Harbaugh has been able to do, I sometimes feel like he struggles in big games. I don't know if he just changes the way he calls plays or maybe it's just the moment gets to him. It just seems like at times he has struggled with the play calls that he makes, and that leads to the opposition being able to sit there and kind of pull away in games. That being said, I think this is probably this I know is his best team at Michigan so far. I know it's only year two, but it's a senior-laden class. It's a team that, when healthy, and that's an issue, and we'll kind of touch on that here coming up when we start talking, when we start breaking down this game. When healthy, this is a very good team. They're going to have some struggles against Ohio State. It's how they sit there and deal with that when they sit there and they get into those moments where they're struggling trying to move the ball down the field, where I'm assuming Wilton Spaeth's going to play this game. When he gets hit, can he get back up and rebound and play? Do you have to lean on John O'Korn? Is John O'Korn going to come into the game? Can John O'Korn be productive? Because he sure wasn't productive against Indiana. This is going to be a tough game, and I'm not so supremely confident that they're going to go into Ohio State and come out with the W. I think it's going to be a very good game, though. I do, because I don't think Ohio State is where they were a year ago or where they were 2 years ago. I think Ohio State's having some of their own growing pains because that's a very young class. So you've got a very senior-laden class on Michigan's end. You've got a very young but talented class on Ohio State's end. And it's all going to kind of culminate this Saturday.
Yeah, no, Michigan's doing a good job of kind of keeping us in a little bit of suspense regarding what's going on with Wilton Speight. A lot of people are wondering, does he really have a severe shoulder injury, or is it a joint sprain? He's been seen throwing the football. There's been reports that he's been practicing. So obviously, key number one is you do have a better chance with a healthy Wilton Speight. So that's why I'm going to argue that he might be healthy, but I don't think he might give you a chance, because can he really protect himself if he's got a shoulder injury? Is he going to be able to make the key throws? We're not just saying, a guy that's, 60% healthy is going to go out there and be able to do some things offensively. So that's key number one. Key number two is there is some film on how to beat Ohio State. You saw that Penn State was able to do it. You saw the effectiveness of the Michigan State run game. So two key guys right away that you're going to look to are De'Veon Smith and Chris Evans. You're going to have to, the Michigan offensive line is going to have to create holes, and they're going to have to win the matchups. And that will allow, I do believe that De'Veon Smith is going to be able to do some things. But a factor that I think you naturally kind of starting off have to talk about is the elements. The weather going, that what I've seen so far, what it looked like is going to be on Saturday is going to be a little bit cold, murky, and so it's going to be one of those situations where I don't think you're going to see a really super offensive game. You're going to see a lot of running the football, who's going to win in the trenches, and I think it's going to be a really tight game. Both teams have kind of come out and said that they're trying plays that are special for each other. So you're going to see a couple of trick plays here and there, a couple of wrinkles that you hadn't seen before. But in essence, to start, who's going to brave the elements better? Michigan's going to have an advantage because they played Indiana in a snow bowl, and Ohio State also had some challenges playing Michigan State. So who's going to handle the elements better? I think Michigan might have a slight edge in that.
As I check the Doc and Jock Doppler, it looks like it's going to be about 39, 40 degrees at the time of kickoff. About a 10% chance of rain, but it's going to be very cloudy. So I don't know. This looks like football weather. It looks like Midwest football weather, the stuff that the Big Ten was built upon and predicated on. But I think you're right. With a lot of the keys to the game that you said, look, Michigan's got to control the run on both sides of the game, or both sides of the ball. Defensively, you've got to be able to sit there and you got to be contained. You got to contain JT Barrett. You got to contain their run game. On the offensive side, those running backs, and they're going to be rotating them in. They're about 4 or 5 deep at running back. They've got to be able to sit there, find the crease, and just exploit it, and just go up the hole right there, and just try to get as much daylight as possible. Every chance you get when you're running the ball, you've got to sit there and take advantage of it, especially against this Ohio State team. You got to be able to protect Wilton Speight. Well, like you said, if you're a running back and you're sitting there and you got to do pass protection, you've got to cover that guy's blind side. Now, I believe it's an AC sprain. That's what I think it is. I think he hurt his AC joint. What you do is you shoot it up with 2 shots of cortisone. You sit there, you give him a couple pain relievers, and you sit there, you say, hey, go play until it hurts. And when it hurts, you come back, we'll give you some more pain relievers, and we'll probably shoot you up with some more cortisone. That's what you do. That's how it is. I'm 100% serious about this right now. That's what happens, okay? Running back-wise, you've got, this. He's hurt. He's your best chance to win. You've got to sit there and you've got to protect him. It's not to his throwing shoulder, so it's not going to affect his pass. It's going to affect him when he gets hit, though, because it's going to hurt like hell. So he's going to have to be picking himself up every single time when he's going to want to stay down. Wilton Speight is the prime reason that this team right now is 10-1, because he has the ability to hit the big chunk play downfield. If you're Michigan, you've got to be able to sit there and capitalize on those plays. That's why that game against Indiana looked so bad. That's why you lost to Iowa, because you couldn't hit those big plays downfield. So run the ball, take advantage of your chunk plays downfield. And on the defensive side, guys like Jordan Lewis, Stribling, Peppers, you guys are going to have to sit there and prevent those from happening. They're going to take their shots. They're a very run-heavy team, but they're going to take their shots. You guys got to be on your game. You got to be able to knock those balls down, intercept those, and you got to be able to sit there and flip field position on these guys. That's what you're going to have to do. My big concern going into the game is can U of M's D-line penetrate OSU's offensive line, and can Michigan's D contain OSU's run game? All right, all that stuff's going to set up Michigan to hit that big play downfield offensively. If they can do that, Michigan stands a great chance to win this game.
Are you thinking that Jabril Peppers is going to be assigned to cover JT Barrett?
Absolutely.
That's the game plan?
Absolutely.
Make sure that this guy, that Jabril Peppers, does his thing and does not allow JT Barrett to dictate to the Michigan defense what's going on.
Absolutely. Peppers has been a spy in a couple different games where he spied on the quarterback or he spied on an elusive running back, and he's done a good job with it. You know, again, I don't think he's what ESPN builds him up to be. I don't think he's necessarily the Heisman guy, but I think he's a very good player. And I think his role on this defense is to be the spy. He's basically there to seek and destroy JT Barrett. You can't let JT Barrett defeat you. All right? So he's going to watch Barrett, because all they do is they run the read option. That's all they do. That's their offense. Every now and then they'll hit a big chunk play down the field, right? Peppers is going to spy on Barrett. And if he goes to sit there and cross the line of scrimmage, expect Peppers to be up in his face. If he goes to drop back for a pass, expect Peppers to come off the edge or to sit there and for them to do some type of a stunt and he comes up the middle. That's what's going to happen. That's how I see Peppers being utilized in this game. And he's athletic enough to where he will succeed at doing it.
Now, this game kind of has the markings of the 2006 game where, you know, both Michigan and Ohio State came in highly ranked, and it was a game that went back and forth, but Ohio State came away with it. And what happened after 2006 was Ohio State kind of climbed the ladder and became furthermore a national powerhouse. And after 2006, after that tough loss, Michigan kind of took, you know, a decade to start coming back. And so I wonder what, after the outcome of this game, what's going to happen to both programs, because really in the end, Ohio State's kind of, you know, you'd say kind of been the champ in the Big Ten. And what happens if they no longer can hold off in the last 2 years, having Michigan State and Michigan come into their house and walk away with victories? I don't think they want to see that. And so I wonder how Urban Meyer would handle if Michigan were to come in there and win. Oh my goodness, the talk. I really believe that if Michigan can walk up to, you know, Columbus, can play a solid game, and they walk away with a victory, the confidence that would probably be injected into that program would go so far. I think that would be something really epic. And if they lose, I think it might, you know, be something that doesn't just end that day on the field. I think that might be similar that you might have, because, you know, you're losing Jabril Peppers, you're losing a lot of weapons. I'm not saying that they're going to fall off and win 2 games a year, but it might be something where this game might have significant ramifications just beyond, you know, this game that takes place Saturday at noon. So it's a big game, and one that a lot of people are excited to see. But I want to ask you, all right, who's going to be the player of the game? Do you think it's going to be more towards Jabril Peppers, Davion Smith, or do you think it's going to be JT Barrett?
I think it's going to be Jordan Lewis.
Okay.
I do. I'm going to go off the board here. I think it's going to be Jordan Lewis. I think he's going to come up with a timely interception. Jabril Peppers has shown that he can't intercept the ball to save his life. It hits him in the hands, and he doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be Jordan Lewis who comes up with a key, timely interception. This is going to be a very close game. I also think that you're kind of hedging your bet when you say what you say about Michigan if they lose this game, because they're losing, like, I don't know, 16 seniors next year. So it's going to be a very young team. And we've already discussed that they're probably going to take a step back. If they're going to win a national championship within the first 3 years of the Harbaugh experiment, it's going to be this year, because you've got such a senior-laden class. It would only make sense. Now, some of those, you know, freshmen and underclassmen that are coming in might be pretty good, but again, the experience rides with this group of guys. So I think you're kind of hedging your bet there. I don't think if Michigan loses, I don't see them sitting there. They're regressing for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
I see next year maybe being, you know, a little bit more challenging, but I think it sets up beautifully for the Big Ten, because look at this. we're now talking about 3 perennial powers. You've got Michigan State, who, yeah, they've had a really bad season this year. It's been awful. It's been worse than what everybody expected, right? But I think you feel pretty confident that next year's going to be okay. I know I feel okay that they're going to be a solid team next year. All right? I know they're going to be a solid team next year. Ohio State, you've got Uncle Urban down there doing whatever he does. You know it's shady. I mean, this is the guy who sat there and recruited Aaron Hernandez, and you see what he's turned out to be, right? I mean, straight up killer. That team is going to always be competitive and relevant. That team right now is so competitive and relevant. Easy for me to say, right? That if they win, they're not even going to go to the Big Ten championship game, and they'll probably still get put in the playoff, which is mind blowing. If Penn State and Wisconsin meet up, Wisconsin might win, and if so, they'll go. Ohio State will go. If Penn State wins, Penn State might not get invited to the college football playoff. Ohio State might be representing the Big Ten. How do you do that? How does that happen? That's how this team is looked upon. That's how Ohio State is revered by everybody who's a national pundit who does anything with college football. It's kind of sickening, actually. So you've got Ohio State, who's always going to be pretty solid. You've got Michigan State. Yeah, they took a step back this year, but I believe next year they're going to be okay. And I like what Harbaugh is doing. He's building a culture. I mean, you got to remember, Michigan was in the doldrums for 10 years. 10 years, right? I mean, me and you have talked about it off air, where it's amazing to see all the Michigan State gear that's around. I remember as a kid growing up, there was never anybody wearing any Michigan State stuff. It was all U of M stuff. Next thing you know, I'm walking through the mall and I'm like, wow, that's a Michigan State shirt. That's a Michigan State shirt. That person's wearing a Michigan State hat. I was like, okay, all right, well, that's a Michigan State jacket. That's weird. Like, this is weird. And the whole time I'm seeing all this, I'm not seeing any Michigan gear. None whatsoever. It's almost like it's Bizarro World and everything's flipped. So Harbaugh's got to come back, and he's got a little bit of an uphill battle, and he's got to redo a culture for the Michigan fan base, for the kids in high school. He's got to rebuild all this, and he's been doing it from the ground up, and hey, so far it looks pretty good. You can say that he's won at least 10 games his first 2 seasons. Can he do more? Can he get more? Can he get invited to the playoff? Can he sit there and win a Big Ten championship? Can he go on to win a national championship? These are the questions that are going to basically be answered this week and next week. So, hey, I'm all about it. I think this is going to be a real good game. I see Jordan Lewis being the guy that we come back and we discuss next week as we head into the Big Ten championship game. And I see basically Michigan winning in the final seconds of the game. And again, it's going to be on a Jordan Lewis interception. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be something like 20-17, kind of like your Lions score. You know, I mean, both these teams have really good offenses. Both these teams have really good defenses. And I think special teams is going to play a part. But in the end, I think it's going to be the stellar abilities of Jordan Lewis that help Michigan ride out and leave the horseshoe with the W.
Yeah, just a couple other names that you can pay attention to outside of the guys we've talked about. Look for wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Look for running back Mike Weber. They're going to be heavily featured in that offense for Ohio State. And also, too, look for, obviously Jake Butt is going to be a leader. He's going to be a go-to guy. The tight end is always a position where you look to for a safety blanket on a key third down play. But another guy is the backup to Davion Smith, kind of a change of pace back, Chris Evans. I think
he's going to be a beast.
I think he'll be a guy that's going to be utilized on those third and short situations. So he'll be a guy that might move the chains and be one of those unsung heroes. But how I see this game shaking out is it's going to be close, but I see it going the opposite way. I see that Ohio State will, under the leadership of JT Barrett, is going to ride out Mike Weber. They're going to make plays. JT Barrett will rise up and make the key plays late. And I have it going late into the fourth quarter with Ohio State taking it down 23-20. I think that also, if Michigan gets the ball late, are you going to have confidence in O'Korn or Spate to, come down?
None in O'Korn. Zero in O'Korn.
You don't have faith? Okay.
No. I thought, for real, going into the season, I thought for sure he was going to be the guy to win the quarterback battle. And after what I seen last week, I'm flabbergasted that he's even on this roster. Like, is Alex Malzone not ready? Because what O'Korn showed me was he wasn't ready. So it just blew my mind.
And something that might be of a disservice is Michigan's schedule. I mean, they've played one solid team on the road. That was Iowa. That was a loss. So
They're
is
not
Michigan
even solid?
Yeah. See, are they prepared to go in and play 60 solid minutes of football? I think they got a good 55 in them, but the last 5 is where the money's made, and I can't wait to see it. Saturday at noon. I think that it's going to be Ohio State just due to the fact that they got JT Barrett, and it's in really the edge favors Ohio State just due to the fact, the biggest factor is it's going to be at Ohio. That's probably the biggest factor, and I do think that they're a little bit more talented, a little bit more depth at the key positions than Michigan does. And so we'll see how it shakes out, but it's a big game. A lot of pressure. Jim Harbaugh's legacy early on is going to be tested. This is one of those key moments. You got to go in there and handle business. And if he does, oh my goodness, man, start a parade up because people are going to be having some major expectations regarding this college football playoff potential invitation.
Dude, if he wins, you can check me out on WWJ that night, like at midnight. So basically Sunday morning, check me out because me and Jeff DeFran will be just sitting here rapping about all of it.
Yeah, nice.
Not giving you any traffic updates, just rapping about Michigan.
You give it. You know what you can do? You can be like, the road is clear for the bus coming back to Ann Arbor, filled with the victors, baby. That's right. That'll be the report.
You know what? I'll use that if they win. You want some games to watch this weekend?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, since it's a holiday weekend, so we got a holiday football schedule. Friday, we've got Washington versus Washington State. That game's at 3:30 on Fox. Also, that afternoon, we've got Toledo at Western Michigan. That's a 5 o'clock game. Going into Saturday, of course, there's only one matchup we're all watching, and that's the Michigan-Ohio State game at noon. After that, you can pick up your Spartans. They'll be playing Penn State at 3:30. Also playing at 3:30 is the Auburn versus Alabama. We also have Notre Dame at USC, which is always a good game. Notre Dame's got a whole crap storm swirling around them with some illegal things that they've done, and they've had to drop a couple of wins there. So that's at 3:30 as well. Utah at Colorado. That's a Pac-10 game right there, so check that one out. That'll be at 7:30. And Florida at Florida State. That's the 8 o'clock matchup, so that should be pretty good.
Before we go to break, what's the bigger rivalry in your mind? Is it the Iron Bowl? Is it Auburn, Alabama, or is it Michigan, Ohio State?
It's Michigan, Ohio State. That is the one that everybody wants to watch all the time. Really, with as dominant as Alabama has been over the course of however long, seriously.
But that Auburn victory when they got the was it the blocked field goal and took it all the way back to the house?
That was a pretty sweet game.
Or was it a missed field goal and it was in the end zone? He took it all the way out.
Back.
Yeah. That was one of those historic moments that lives a long time. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about the rivalries: Auburn, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. So it'll be a good time.
Dude, I love this week because in college football, it's all rivalry week. It's like you've got interstate matchups all over the place. Like even Oregon, who is absolute dumpster fire and hot garbage this season, they're taking on Oregon State at 4 o'clock on the Pac-12 network. So if you want, check that one out.
And then to end the segment, you mentioned the powerhouses, but also look at Wisconsin and Penn State. They've kind of emerged after a kind of a tumultuous season, and they're still in the top 15 of the polls too. So it's kind of looking like the Big Ten's doing some things and continuing to maintain that respect. So it's not a bad thing.
The Big Ten has been great this year. They really have done a good job carrying their name and just making people recognize. They've done a very good job this year.
All right, let's take our final time out. We're going to come back and talk about the news of the week in the city of Detroit. A certain basketball team is coming back to play at the Little Caesars Arena. We'll talk about it next. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com. And get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wings shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
All right, sir. On this Thanksgiving, we're obviously thankful for the many guests that have come on this podcast, for everybody that's been retweeting us, that's messaging us regarding the work that we do here. Without your support, without everybody visiting DetroitSportsPodcast.com, we couldn't keep the mics hot, the lights on here at the Sterling Heights office. We couldn't be able to watch the 1994 Royal Rumble here in the background on the Doc and Jocktron.
The bad guy just won a belt.
Yeah.
He beat Bray Wyatt's dad. For those of you who don't know, that's IRS, if you remember him.
Yep. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to, start a project in September of 2013, see it through and what's gone on. So it's nice to see when guests come in, they're like, I like what you're doing. It's very nice. And so far, the majority of the reviews have been positive. So we want to keep it going. And all we can do is keep giving thanks to support us. All you got to do, go to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. That's the easiest way to learn about us, to see what the heck we got going on here in Sterling Heights, and to find out when the shows air. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Now, we're not moving to downtown Detroit. You're going to have the Wings, Pistons, Tigers, and Lions within a 4-block radius. Man, maybe we should get a studio right in the middle of it all. Get a nice little office there, an adjunct office. We can be right in the middle of the action. But we must have not 34 million. We're going to need about 38 million to haul everything that we got and take it downtown.
Can we rent out a loft space right above Hockey Town? Can we do that right above the Hockey Town Cafe? Just rent out one of the upper lofts there.
More important to us,
set it all up
if we can get this subsidy without a public hearing, I would absolutely love it. I have no doubt about it that if the city of Detroit wants to pay for a Macomb County situation to go down to Wayne County, we will listen. We don't need to hear public hearings. We can kind of, slide that through. We'll see if that can work out for us and bring another business back to Detroit.
They get our tax dollars, so why not, right?
So the worst kept secret, everyone's talking about it. They had a press conference on Tuesday, gathered everybody up at Cast Tech, and everybody was talking about, you had the NBA commissioner there, Chris Ilitch, the owners of the Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers. You had Tom Goris there and his equity group. You had the NBA commissioner talking there, and everybody gathered, and the announcement was made that they're intending for the Detroit Pistons to leave the Palace of Auburn Hills next season and join the Red Wings. What was your reaction? Obviously, we thought that it made no sense when we first heard about it a year, 2 years ago. We wrote blogs about it thinking, why would they do it? But when it all comes down to it, it's all about the dollars and cents. And when they looked at the deal, the dollars made a lot of sense. And the Pistons, see ya. So no more. They're now going to play in Detroit.
They also played at Cobo for a time there when they were in the actual city of Detroit. But I don't like it. I don't like it because I feel like it's being done for disingenuous reasons. I don't think that Tom Gores wants to move the Pistons into downtown Detroit to have his team within the city limits. I don't think that's the reason. I don't think it's there to help the city. I don't think they're all in for Detroit. I think this is more of a ploy for him. Again, you have to remember, this is a man of substantial wealth, substantial power, and he wants to basically extend his kingdom. He wants to extend his reach. You have to remember, this guy and his equity group own basically every single concert venue that is north of 8 Mile, right? I mean, he owns Freedom Hill, owns DTE. They run what goes on at the one that's on Oakland's campus.
Meadowbrook?
Yes, Meadowbrook, thank you. They own about 2 or 3 other ones as well. So this is about him extending his reach and his tentacles, getting them into downtown Detroit. You have to remember, up until this point, up until 2017, 2018 season with the Detroit Pistons, he has no dealings in downtown Detroit whatsoever. I see this being a move for him to be able to sit there and just kind of move his headquarters into downtown Detroit. He sees a good thing happening with what the Red Wings are doing with Little Caesars Arena, what the Illiches are doing, and he's like, you know what? He's like that girl that you went to school with who always has to be the center of attention. He's like, you know what? I got to get on this train. I got to jump on. I got to be in the middle of all this. This is good stuff. Let me do this. You know what? If you really wanted to do it and you really wanted to be a part of it, why wasn't this done before the ground broke? Because now you got to sit there and you've got to invest a couple more $1 million to sit there and take care of any alterations and things that have to be fixed so the Detroit Pistons can now move into the Little Caesars Arena, which, again, it just burning money. And I think what this move does sets Tom Gores up to do other things within the city that he wants to do. He wants to have an MLS soccer team within the city. Him and Dan Gilbert do, right? If you look at who owns all the properties in all of the the important buildings in downtown Detroit, it's like 3 or 4 people. It's the Illiches. It's going to be the Gores coming soon to a Detroit city block near you, and it's Dan Gilbert. And you've also got the Fords. That's what you got. You've got 4 families. It's like the mafia. You've got 4 families that run downtown Detroit. And if you want a cut of the pie, you better get ready to do some dirty deeds to get in bed with them.
Well, let's look at one of the first things that has kind of been a red flag was once LCA started construction, didn't they guarantee around 51% of the work was going to go to Detroit?
Yes.
So then someone looked and said, oh, okay, you promised this. And a lot of people are now into the business of, well, when you say X, we want to go double check that you did X. So did LCA's group that started the construction of Little Caesars Arena use 51% of the work from Detroit? That would be no.
That would be proven to be false.
So why did they say it? And then did you hear the little caveats that came out afterwards? They were like, well, the Pistons are going to throw this much money into building basketball courts. They're going to do this and this. And so that sounds nice, but are they actually going to execute it? And they keep saying they're going to do it, but the question mark, I mean, it's overall, fundamentally, it's nice in the big picture wise, but obviously we know that they're doing it for money. They're doing it for a partnership. When you enter into a partnership, you want to make sure that you can, get in on some of the concert venues, some of the big time events that are going to go on, that are going to draw revenue. So we know it's a money making venture, but are they going to actually do what they say they're going to do? And then it goes into the big topic that not even in another hour and a half, if we talked about it, is a debate that we had right when we had the meeting to go on, the Patriot back 2 years ago, is the use of public funds to fund these stadiums. Real Sports on HBO has tackled it, and it really is a debatable point. And on both sides, I can agree. If you told me, hey, the city will hook you up a little bit, give you some money, and for that, we need certain, amenities, we need certain things, and for that, we'll have this nice brand new state-of-the-art building that's going to draw this much money, I would take it. I'm not going to lie and sit here and tell you that. But at the same time, when you got a city of Detroit, when you just go, listen, the downtown area, the midtown area is great. They've done a great job, obviously, with the Fox, with midtown, with downtown. But that with restructuring can be done faster. What a lot of people are also talking about is what's been done in the inner city of Detroit. Are the dilapidated homes being crushed and built at the pace that we said that they were? Are the schools? I mean, literally, all you have to do if someone asks and goes, how much money could you potentially maybe slide to the Detroit public schools so we don't have to hear reports on Channel 7 of rats rolling around on the floor, or of teachers paying out of their own pocket to buy books, or of the ceiling falling down on them because when rain hits, the tiles get all messed up. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be extended from this so that more people can feel better. And I hope that they really don't just give it lip service, that they actually do it. Because stadiums, when they've done studies, if you just actually Google, how much do stadiums help surrounding areas?
They don't.
They don't.
They don't at all.
That's the reports. So, all this is a little bit of lip service. We know that anybody who's smart and is actually invested to look at it can realize that, yeah, it's a money situation, but how much of it is going to benefit the city, that's important too. And they got to be held accountable for it.
Let me ask you this. Okay, if me and you were to sit there and we were to talk about a city's infrastructure and trying to make it great again.
Well, first, before you get to your point, real quickly, do you agree with public funds going to stadiums and owners that already have $1 billion?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all because, again, like you said, it doesn't help make the city better. You know what? It's going to maybe help downtown Detroit look a little bit better, and it's going to give people who have money things to do downtown. But does that money get trickled back into the city? And generally, the answer is no. It goes into businesses, and it goes into these owners' pocketbooks. That's where it all goes. So again, like you said, a lot of lip service and a lot of, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Now, if Tom Gores and his equity group were all in on the city of Detroit like he says he is, why not take some of that money that you're promising to go and fix up some dilapidated parks? Why not, like you said, invest those back into schools? Because we both know if a school system is upgraded and can survive, then people will come back and live in the city. If they feel like they can feel safe putting their children in a school system, and they feel like their children are going to get the education that they so desire, they will put their kids into those schools, and sit there. And then what you have is now you have an influx of people moving back into a city. So now you don't have burnt down houses. You don't have tore up blocks. You've got people who care, who want their kids to do well, and who have, now you have families. You know what families produce? Families produce tax dollars. You know what tax dollars do? They go back into the system and they generate revenue for the city to then put up lights, make sure things stay on. When you need a road paved or you've got to go fill potholes in, the city can come out and do that. But nobody wants to send their kids to Detroit public schools. You're either forced to or you don't have any other choice. That's why your kids go to Detroit public schools. Look, I live in Hamtramck. All right. As a child growing up, I lived in the city of Detroit. I lived right off of Davison. Did I ever go to a Detroit public school? Hell no. Hell no. I went to a Catholic school. My mom paid, and we had no money. My mom had to sell flowers on a corner to sit there and make money to send me to school because she didn't want to send me to Detroit public schools. She had to do odd jobs to sit there and make two ends meet. That's how it is. You know, you have two beautiful daughters. If the Detroit public school system was built up and it was much better, and when I say much better, I mean it's similar to the education that they'll get where you live. Would you then contemplate possibly moving back down into the city and maybe sending your kids to a Detroit public school?
I grew up in Macomb County, and so I'm fond of the entire county, everything, all about it with everything. So for me to move into Wayne County is not likely. No. Not for me. Plus now in my situation, I'm a little bit older. I'm not a millennial, and I'm not in the phase
You're
where
not a hipster at
I'm
all.
not a hipster. I don't. Wednesday, by all accounts, what everyone says to me is the biggest bar night of the year. I will be probably knocked out by 10 p.m.
Yeah.
No doubt. So that doesn't suit me and for what I need. So I'm more of a Macomb County kind of guy. That's just what I'm at. I grew up here, and I kind of want to stay here. I'm settled in.
Let me put it to you like this. Me and my wife will be having kids very shortly here in the next year or two. You know what's got to come before we have kids, though? We've got to move out of the city that we live in because we don't want to send our kids to the school systems that we live in because, like you said, they're so dilapidated, they're so beat up. So now the city I live in is going to lose my tax revenue. I'm going to lose my revenue sharing, all right? Which might not sound like a big deal, but I'm one person. Multiply that by 100. Multiply that by 10 then. So now you're at what? 1,000, and you just keep multiplying it out. Do you see the issue here? If you have a school system that can support children and give them the wherewithal to become functioning adults, it then brings families back into the city. And all I hear out of Tom Gores in his group and everybody who is sitting on that panel is, oh, well, we're going to fix some basketball courts up and we're going to give you 20,000 free tickets to people who live in the city. Okay, great. You know what that does? That does absolutely nothing. Because you know what some of those basketball courts are? That's where drug dealers hang out and they sit there and they peddle dope. Believe me, I know. I run by them when I go for my jogs. I know what goes on. You know how many base heads I got to run by and who sit there and scream random things at me when I go for my runs?
Like what? What is
A lot. Oh, hey, you got any money? Can you hook me up? No, I have no money. Get away from me. You have no teeth. You know, you can just see they're tweaking out. No, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's not good. Look.
And so, factually,
go ahead.
Yeah, factually, I just want to say that at this point in time, the DDA has already contributed $250 million to the construction of the total cost of 732, and now you're adding an additional $34.5 million. And it's hard to tell people what to do with their money, but when you're talking about billionaires and a couple of them, you know.
The best part was when Mike Duggan got up there and he was like, well, we're going to sit there and what we're going to do to help the city is these are all bonds and these are all bond-backed dollars. So instead of having to pay that interest, we're going to push that down another 3 years. So in 2049, when that bill comes due, go ahead, whoever's running the city, you take care of that for me. Thanks.
Right.
Like you're just kicking the can down the road. It's come on.
And I know the one thing I felt guilty kind of cringing at a little bit was when they said that they were going to give 20,000 free tickets every year to the inner city. Okay, that's fine, but
that's not helping anybody.
That doesn't help much.
It doesn't do anything. What are you talking about here?
Right.
You're generally these tickets are like the free admission tickets that you can get to go to a concert at DTE.
All right.
Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Who do you see benefiting from all of this? Who? Is it the fans? Is it the team? The ownership group? Or is it the city? Who do you got here? Because, look, man, there's one person who benefits above everybody else.
It's Tom Gores.
It sure as hell ain't the fans. No. I mean, because honestly, the fans who pay the money to go to the games, you know where they live? They don't live in the city of Detroit. It's the worst kept secret. It's the people who live in the suburbs. So now the people who live in the suburbs have to drive down to the city of Detroit. It's not the fans who show up aren't the people who live in the city. I don't care what you say. It's not. And it sure as hell isn't the team because they already played in one of the best damn arenas in all of the NBA. I don't care how old it was. It's been updated and it's been built in such a way that it could last time. Yeah. And it totally has outlasted time. And Tom Gore has just put $40 to $50 million back into the facility to get it upgraded. So what the hell are we talking about here? And honestly, the city sure as hell ain't making out on this deal because Mike Duggan just promised you another $35 to $40 million that could have been invested in something else for the city. So you know who it is? The golden tongue owner, Tom Gores. He's the one who's basically getting everything for nothing. He's getting like an extra $40 million put in so they can sit there and make adjustments to the city. He doesn't even have to pay for that. If you were to sit there and you were to get in on this deal before ground was ever broken, the adjustments could have been made to the plans to save money. And none of this would have this extra $40 million would never have had to have been tackled. You know? And then the team and the owner, and they sit there and they leverage this deal to basically get a chunk of property for free where they tell the city, hey, you know what? We'll build a $32 to $55 million facility, but you got to give us that property. Let us get that. So now what you're doing is you're promising to put and mind you, $32 to $55 million, that's a huge range. That's a big range, okay? It's a lot of money and it sounds great, right? But that's a massive range, all right? And what you don't understand is that money and how much they use to build on that property, those are supposed to be taxable dollars. And basically the city is now giving them property for free. So now you just sat there and you cut your nose despite your face. It makes absolutely no sense because where's the taxation coming? Where is the money that is being built for this recreational facility, this practice facility, whatever it's going to be on this free plot of land that you're going to give us? What are we going to benefit from this? Because basically we just gave you land to say, here, go build on that. Go ahead, do whatever you got to do. Thanks. What? And on top of it, Gores doesn't even live in the city of Detroit. So how is he all in for the city? This guy just spent like $300 million building a home in LA. You don't even live here, bro. You sit there and you take freaking G6s here and then you roll out right after the ball game. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's just the idea that, hey, if you got the funds, pay the price. But again, it's just hard to say, if someone's going to be willing to kind of help you out. And for, sports fans, just at the basic level, let's see how the ticket prices are going to look next year. And then the other part that's most important too is that if they say they're going to do it, just go actually do it. If you say you're going to hire 51% of contractors in Detroit, go out and actually live up to what you said because people are going to be checking. And
stop lying to us about this stuff.
Exactly. Just go out there and do what you're going to say you're going to do, and also maybe look at extending some of the funds to the schools and other type things that are also very, very important. And like I said, it's just interesting that in our lifetime now, we've seen the Palace it was opened in August of 1988, and it's still state of the art. It's considered state of the art. But now it's probably going to be sold.
It's a top 10. It's a top 10 arena in all of the NBA.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the Silver Dome. It's going to be either developed or utilized in a way that's going to be productive. But
do you see them tearing it down and then parceling out that land? Because that land's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, they're gonna do that, and probably some of the automotive situations or engineering company will build on it and do some things.
Was there anything wrong with the Palace?
No, it's nice.
There was nothing wrong with the Palace. Why did the Pistons have to leave the Palace? It makes absolutely no sense to me. This is all about want and greed, and again, leveraging a situation to get your feet into the city of Detroit so now you can expand your empire within the city. That's all this is. You got to look at it for what it is. And look, the newspaper did a real nice job writing a whole bunch of shine pieces on this, a whole bunch of them. I mean, Tony Paul was out there writing a bunch of nice stuff about it, and everybody for the free press, Wojo was doing it. Everybody was writing real nice stuff about how this is awesome for the city, and it's going to help generate all kinds of money. But why? Why? The answer is why, or the question is why. That is where we're at. Why? Why are we doing this? What is wrong with the Palace? There's nothing wrong with the Palace. $50 million just got sunk into the Palace to make it better. All right? There's absolutely nothing wrong. It's still a top 10 arena in all of the NBA. It's not in disarray. Look, the Joe Louis Arena, that was an arena that, for as much as the Illiches did on upkeeping that place, it was time for a new arena. You could make an argument that it was time, okay? There is no reason for the Palace to be destroyed. There's no reason for that land to be chunked up and parceled out to the highest bidder. There is absolutely zero reason for that to happen. The only answer you come back to every time you sit there and you ask that question, why? It's greed.
Yeah, that's what it is. But that's what people in business getting them in the business to do is make a bunch of money. You can't. You got to remember, he's got upkeep. He's got to pay for the water that's in that home. That's a big home. Do you see the pictures of that home he bought? That upkeep. You don't just buy it up front and then there's no more cost. He's got to continuously pay the upkeep, the taxes. You see the taxes out there in L.A. and Beverly Hills? Oh my God.
So it's okay to sit there and burn down an arena that doesn't need to be burned down and go to suck, $35 to $40 million from a city that could use that money to build something else. To sit there, take that, and to sit there and just to expand your empire, huh? That's what it's all about.
Well, in essence, the way that they're looking at it, and everything that we talked about is stuff for us to kind of talk about. But in the business world, they're not talking about it. They're looking at it like, okay, I sunk $355 million into the palace. Oh, we can get back $700 for the land and all the businesses. He bought the entire Palace Sports and Entertainment for $350 million or so. Now we can get back probably $6-7. That's all they look at.
Dollar and cents.
That's what it is. When it doesn't make sense, look for the dollars because that's where it makes sense. But, we'll see. That's the part we got to look at is these billionaires know what they're doing to make money. Let's see if they actually live up to their what they say they're going to do to give back to the community. Very good podcast, sir. Another good year of podcasting almost wrapped up. I'm very happy with where we're at and 172 episodes strong. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hopefully, when you download this, you're in the comforts of your family, eating a bunch of food, having a good old time, and avoiding that uncle that is going to ask you about when you're going to get married if you're a single dude. For the
Happy Turkey Day, everyone.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thanks, everybody, for your continued support. We appreciate it.
Go Lions, go U of M.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.